Okay, so our logo is in, and what I need to do basically at this point, I just scaled it a bit. I want to scale it to just kind of about center screen because this is going to be our focal point. And from the perspective view, just press 4 on your keyboard to get to that view. I don't mind that it's actually right there in the fonts and everything because it's just going to be in those particles and just kind of come out of there. So there it is. However, we don't want it to come on until that flare. Remember the flare? Okay, so the flare comes on at 60. That's where that sucker needs to actually come on. So what we're going to do, you can do two things. You can actually copy the flare intensity and paste it down for the object dissolve. But, you know, in all the process of doing that, you're better off just setting a new object dissolve. If you had something really complex, you know, you might want to do that. Certain flares that are, you know, you really spend some time keyframing, and then you got to match that. That would be good. But we just got an up and a down, so it's not too hard. So basically, as this flare comes up right at 60, that's where I'm going to have the logo actually dissolve on. So at frame 60, I'm going to press P for object properties, and the logo, the 7 3D logo, is selected. Okay. And then under render, there's object dissolve. There's that E button. And just so you know, E means envelope. You envelope a value. That's old Lightwave that they just kind of kept in there. It should really be animate, in my opinion. I've said this in other videos. Could be G for graph editor. But E means envelope, in case you ever wonder what that means. All right, so at 60, we're going to create a keyframe. So yeah, select that little key right there. It's 0%. Okay, here we want it a 100% dissolved, as well as here, right mouse to select that and go 100%. If it goes off screen, you can use the zoom tools or just press the A key. Okay, so at 0, it's 100% dissolved. Remember, we're doing a dissolve, not an intensity like I did with the flare. Okay, so here at 60, it's 100% dissolved. Then we're going to create a keyframe about 5 frames later. And it's maybe going to take maybe 6 frames. So let's go 66. It's going to be 0% dissolved. So it's going to hold out. It's just going to be dissolved away and then come on. And again, just like we did for the intensity, hold the shift key, double click, and then drag your tension to 1. That way it'll just ease up and ease into its dissolve. And it will help hold it. You don't want this thing to kind of fade on after before it's ready to. So now you've got all these flares, or excuse me, all the particles. Then you got the flare. The flare comes up a little bit before, and it brings the news on. Okay, and if you're not getting this dissolve in your OpenGL, again, press D for display, and under OpenGL, there's your transparency channels. Okay, turn those on. And hello, hub. Okay, so let's see how it looks in somewhat real time. Okay, nice dissolve. So Shift S, we're going to save that scene. Say yes. The Lightwave object files are out of date. Yes. Okay, so Lightwave 9.5 is updating those surface files for me, which is great. Okay, so how long is it going to take from 2 seconds to get up in front of me? Probably about 2 more seconds. So I'm going to go to frame 120. Okay, so at frame 120, I want this logo up in my face. And in fact, I'd probably want it maybe, let's go a little beyond 2 seconds, like maybe to 135. 2 seconds and a half. I'm going to press T for move, which is under modify, and I'm going to move this up towards me. I'm going to press Y for rotate. I'm going to kind of rotate it like this. Press T again, move it down, and I'm just going to kind of move it past the camera like that. Now, see this right here? This is clipping, okay? That has to do with the size of the Lightwave's world grid, the measurement, the grid down here. Now, my grid is fine. I'm moving everything just fine. It's a 500 millimeter grid. But when you get objects really close to the camera, basically the camera is going through it. And if you know for sure that the camera is not, you can press your display options, and there's this, press D, there's this fixed near clip distance. And you can turn that on and then just set a minimal distance like that. Okay, so that helps avoid situations like that. And there's our hub. He just wants to be part of the action. That's all. We'll put him down. Okay, so we'll come back here to Lightwave, and we're just going to move that logo up past ourselves at 135, kind of like that. And then I'm going to go, instead of the graph editor, just hit Move TCB and click and drag. That creates a tension of 1. That's going to help keep that logo in place at that last frame. And let's just move it down, make sure it stays. Okay, so we'll save the scene. Okay, now look what's happening. It's moving before I want it to, right? Well, that's because I moved it to my last keyframe, but I never told it to stay put until it dissolves on, which is 66. Now, I don't mind it moving a little bit before it comes on. You don't want it to fade on and then move. You kind of want everything to flow. So what I'm going to do is just about 59, create a keyframe. So I'm going to go back to frame 0, and that's where the logo is 100% in place. Hit create a key, and it's creating a key for the position, the rotation, and the scale at frame 59. And then at frame 59, just hit the next keyframe button right there. Move TCB, click and drag to add a tension to even out that curve, and that helps keep it in place. So now when you play, that logo is just going to come right up. So we'll save the scene. Now, let's do the fun part, getting the surfaces on. So I'm going to open up the surface editor, and I'm going to use F prime. Looks like I lost my license. I'll worry about that later. Let's go to render and open up our Viper, see if we can see things here. Okay, let's do a F9 render a frame. Yeah, I had cleared out my I was having a little trouble with my graph editor, so I cleared out my preferences, and in doing so, I lost my F prime license. So you just got to re-enter it. But that's okay. Just remember, that's a third-party plugin, Worley, WORLEY.com. And it's basically this. It's Viper, which is built into Lightwave, but it's kind of like Viper on steroids. Okay, so there's our 7 logo. Don't ever hand in a logo like that to somebody. And we can see it there. All right, so we're going to go with the sides. We're going to give it just kind of a little bluish, grayish tint kind of thing. And let's go with the Dan recipe of 50, tab key, 50, tab key, 50, tab key, 50, tab key, 50. Okay. And because we're 50% reflection, what's it going to reflect? We are going to do just a spherical map. The reason I'm not going to do a ray tracing the way we did with our sports logo is because there's really nothing else around. There's some particles and things, but it's transparent. You're going to see those through. If we had other elements above and below and in front, you'd want that to reflect. But in this case, all you're going to do is increase the render time. For the spherical map, you could use the city, but really what works well is just going to those same fractal reflections. It's in your images folder from the course. We're going to smooth out the sides and give it about a 30-degree smoothing threshold. And if you remember how we did the football field in the previous course, that smoothing was just enough to clear out any facets in here like this. See how there's facets right there in the bevel? Okay, so watch. I'm going to right-click on sides and choose copy. Go to the bevel, right-click, and paste. You can still see a definition between those two, but if the smoothing were at 89, it starts to kind of round out a little and it doesn't look right. So we want it about 30. And then we're going to go to the face, right-click, and paste, but we're going to turn off smoothing. And so now you get this great-looking logo. It doesn't look like much there, but let's render it out and see. We might need to punch up the luminosity or even just the maybe just the color on the face just a bit, or possibly the reflection. But let's do a save all objects just to save those surfaces and save the scene, and we'll do an F9. And fortunately, these renders aren't actually taking too long, which is kind of nice. Our other sports logo I have rendering on another machine, and I still got like another 15 hours to go. So that's because all that glass, all that reflection, it's just a heavy calculator. And that's on a PC, a Windows Vista machine. and it's pretty robust, but just doesn't seem to want to calculate well enough as we need. You know, the faster the machines are, the more we want to add to it. So, all right, and as this is rendering, now this is going to take a little bit longer again, just because we have the glass and we're doing it up front. So let's let this finish, and then we'll move on to the next video.